Let's deal with some of the common mistakes that HR professionals, hiring managers, recruiters, and executives make all the time that lead to this remorse and regret for getting the wrong person on board. We've all been there where we spent weeks, maybe even months, looking for, searching for, interviewing candidate after candidate till we find the one. The one where we're like, this is the person I've been looking for to solve my problem, to fill the role that has been vacant and that's causing us so much pain. We're excited. We're pumped. The candidate's pumped. The momentum is moving all in the right direction. So we make the offer. 2 weeks later, after they put their notice in, and we start onboarding them, and they show up for their very first day, and you get that sinking feeling that maybe something's not just quite right. Week after week goes by. 6 months later, you're sitting there looking at that person who you were convinced was the one who's going to make everything better, who was going to help you achieve your goals, who's going to solve those problems, that missing gap on your team, only to be having to hand them their final check because it just didn't work out the way you hoped. That feeling is sickening. The nights that you spend up thinking about having to terminate them, the days you spent trying to give them the tools and the training that you hoped would get them back on track, only for them just ultimately to fail. It hurts everybody involved. So in this video, I want to tackle some of the 4 common mistakes that hiring managers, HR pros, and executives make when they're selecting people. It all starts with not getting the foundation or the framework right. We are excited, or we have an urgent need to fill a particular role, and we just jump right in. We fail to prepare. So as Einstein always said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. It's so easy to do. We think in our minds, we have this crystal clear idea of who it is that we're looking for, what role we need to fill. Maybe we've even filled that role with hundreds of people before. We've forgotten to stop, pause for even a short period of time, 20 minutes, an hour, to reflect back, to think about what is it that I really need this person to accomplish, but in smart terms, making it specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound, and reevaluating the new information that we've had. So as time goes on, even if you've hired this position a bunch of times and you've refilled it over and over again, those metrics, that SMART goal for that role often is changing. And if it's not crystal clear, it makes it virtually impossible to find the right person. By doing a job analysis, but just simply sitting there observing and reflecting and identifying the key measurable attributes or outcomes helps you identify the attributes that you're really looking for in your next A player. So the second area is attracting talent. And I see this is a pretty common mistake. People are using boring job descriptions and they're posting them on the wrong job boards, and they're not throwing any advertising dollars. Ultimately, what they're doing is they're forgetting that the talent attraction piece is a recruitment marketing or just a flat out traditional marketing exercise. Change your mindset when it comes to attracting new people. Start thinking about it as a marketing activity. Bring in your marketing department if you need to. HR teams are not trained marketers. Neither are hiring managers in many cases. So get help. Find experts within your organization who are great marketers, who can write a killer message. And then ultimately, you need to get the information in front of the right people. Just like any other marketing campaign, where is your ideal buyer? In marketing, where is your ideal candidate? And a couple of hints, for the low-hanging fruit, you look at some of the job boards, and that is always a mixture in most recruiting campaigns, but you want to be looking at Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and LinkedIn. You want to also look internally. Referrals are the best source of new customers, and they're also the best source of new talent in your organization. So don't forget to have an employee referral marketing campaign going on with any hires that you're about to start. The other places are just direct cold outreach, just like you do in new business development. You're doing some sort of cold outreach, cold emails, cold calls, cold LinkedIn. You're doing the same thing when you're doing your recruiting. So these are the top 3 techniques for marketing, but the most important is getting your message right. And if you forgot to do the framework or the foundational steps, it's going to make it very difficult for you to tailor your message to your ideal candidate. Okay, candidate evaluation. So nobody has taught us how to be expert interviewers. There's no college classes. I even like to talk to HR professionals who get an emphasis in human resources or human capital. They don't get taught how to interview. Neither do your hiring managers. Neither do CEOs for that matter. So most of us learn how to interview sort of haphazardly through the other leaders that have influenced us or that we've watched or mentored, or maybe we look it up and get some half-baked information from the internet. But ultimately, we have to follow a structure to our candidate evaluation process. We teach a 5-step process that can be done in under 5 days. So that's really a powerful first interview where we cut straight to the chase and we're really seeking references from candidates' primary direct supervisors and their last couple of jobs, if not last 10 years worth of jobs. Immediately go into using powerful assessments that measure behaviors, attitudes, integrity, culture fit factors, as well as skills and aptitudes. And then getting into an in-depth interview, which can be done a bunch of different ways, but as long as it's following a structured path, a repeatable interview path. And there, we often teach the career history style interview, as well as how to use targeted behavioral-based interview questions and the art of being curious. So we want to use the same consistent process for almost all interviews that we're going to conduct, especially those in-depth ones. And we want to have similar or the same interview questions for each role. Those are those targeted behavioral-based interview questions. So that way we're ultimately measuring candidates on the same exact thing over and over again. And lastly, that comes back to a candidate scorecard. Without that scorecard that ultimately was developed in that foundational phase when we really identified who we were looking for, what we needed them to accomplish, what attributes, skills, and experiences they would bring, we aren't able to measure people on a kind of a level playing field without taking the emotions out. And that's what the scorecard does for us. The last piece is training and onboarding. And this is probably one of the most fatal mistakes that people make. They actually might have found a really high quality person, somebody who actually did have the right potential to become a rock star within the organization. But instead of having a well thought out, smart plan for onboarding this person, they throw them right into the deep end. They shovel a bunch of tasks and responsibilities on there. They maybe have them shadow somebody for a day or two, and they just let them sink to the bottom of the pool. Nobody can handle taking over a big job on day one and just magically be amazing, right? There's an acclimation period. They can't even figure out where the water cooler is for that matter. So think about easing people into their roles, having really smart, measurable milestones within their onboarding and training periods, and then giving them the right tools and resources to A, learn your organization, but B, learn how to master their job within the organization and ultimately focus on those outcomes of the job that are most important and make those realistic, right? Going back to your SMART job description. I want to talk next about the attraction piece. This has been one of the biggest challenges for most of us out there. So in our next video, we're really going to hunker down and dissect the ideal job boards to be using, but most importantly, how to get the most out of those. So check out the next videos. That's your low-hanging fruit, how you can start building a pool of really high-quality candidates most effectively, and we'll see you there.